Take a moment and think about the last new household you opened up. Think about it from the perspective of the expression on the client or client's faces as they were preparing to sign the document or as they were moving toward making a final decision. Somewhere along the way, a number of things had to occur. Obviously, you had to be introduced to them or you met them by some other fashion, but somewhere along the way, the concept of fees or costs is going to come up. Now, I prefer to get there first, but sometimes it just doesn't work out that way. So as part of a normal onboarding presentation, fairly early in the prospecting process, I present a document that I call an investment introduction. An investment introduction is just a series of charts and graphs and basically process-oriented statements that explains kind of how I do things, the process of using goals-based planning, the importance of communication, the importance of taking the long term, all stuff you guys have probably heard. What I want to do is make certain that the prospective clients understand exactly where I'm coming from. Within the programs, we spend a lot of time how we give that presentation. I give examples and I use documents, 20, 22 pages in length. You don't have to use them all, but I found over time it's incredibly effective. Now, one of the things that I found to be absolutely essential is the last page of the document where I talk about the rules of engagement. When someone gives you essentially the majority of their liquid net worth, it's a pretty big deal. From your perspective as an advisor, this is something you've done probably hundreds of times. You've got many, many households that you're in charge of. From that household's perspective, this is something that they may have done before, but hopefully they're doing it with you for the last time. So what I'd like to do is talk about how we put some structure around that so the engagement, the relationship has more to it than just the documents that they sign. So the last page of my investment introduction is always the rules of engagement. Now, the rules of engagement have three parts. The third part concerns costs and or fees. The other parts we'll get into at some point if you come take a course, but this is the last part. Sometimes I've got to make it the first part if the question comes in, but usually I like to do it as part of this presentation, normally on one of the first meetings we can take it through. If the prospect asks first, hey, how much do you charge? Well, you could give them a number and then try and justify it, which I used to do. Oh, I can get this for cheaper than that. When they say that, you have to ask yourself, how do they know what I'm going to deliver? They have no idea what I'm going to deliver. One of the reasons I go through the investment introduction up front is for them to understand that what they're going to get from me is very different than what they get anyplace else. How much do you charge? My response, well, what would you like to pay? And I just sit there and I stare. Silence is one of the best things you can do in this type of conversation. What's the prospect going to say? Oh, I'd like to pay as little as possible. And you're like, oh, yes, that's not good. My response, what would you expect to get? And then hush up, be quiet. Don't say a word. Because now all of a sudden the prospect is sitting there going, I want everything you do for the cheapest cost possible. Oh, really? So you want kind of favored client status, which means I'm overcharging everyone but you. It's kind of a tough discussion to have because you have no idea what kind of value I'm going to deliver. Or put another way, use this one as well. Let's say I charge you a third of what I charge everyone else. And I fail to live up to absolutely every single thing I told you I could do because obviously I've got to take care of my other clients who are paying me fairly for my services. Did you get a good deal? Clients are going to go, guess not. Take it the other way. Let's say I charge you 3 times what I charge everyone else, and your investment performance exceeds your expectation by 3x. Is that a good deal? Well, yeah, I guess so. So let's do this. Let's look back and have this discussion in 6 months or for a year. If you think I'm charging you too much, you probably shouldn't be with me because you don't recognize the value we bring. Fair enough? Fair enough. Now, I get to the formal explanation a little bit later on, but we can take it a different way if we want to have a little bit more fun. Prospects asked first, how much do you charge? Response set number 2. My response, as much as I possibly can. You notice I'm not smiling and I'm staring right at the prospective client or clients. I'm looking right at them. Now, normally they're going to get a little bit uncomfortable. They're going to say, well, what do you mean? Can you explain that? Happy to, sure. And then I go into the same explanation I would go in, assuming the prospect asks first in either case. If I could get there first, this is what I start with. Your fees are based on the amount of money you entrust to our team. This allows our interests to be mutually aligned. The percentage you will pay will be fixed. It will not be the highest on the street. It will not be the lowest on the street, but it will be a fee that is fair for both of us. The only way I can charge you even more is the value of your assets go up or you bring me more money. That's it. That means our interests are completely aligned. Now, that's the way that I would get paid based on managing the assets. But there is a third way that I would like you to consider, because by far it is the most important way that you can compensate us. We spend the majority of our time focused on making certain that the planning we do for our clients actually occurs. It requires oversight, it requires vigilance, it requires reviews, lots of communication with folks like you. In order to do that, we need to have a couple of things. Number one, we have to have a book of people we truly care about. Number two, we depend on those clients to help us meet other people like them so we can keep our focus on your needs rather than our growth. From time to time, assuming you perceive the value, which I believe you will, in what we do, we may come to you and ask you for help either in meeting other people that you may be associated with or to use you as a reference. Does that seem fair? 9 times out of 10, here's what they're going to say. Okay, we're good. You take care of us. We're going to take care of you. I cannot tell you the difference that made in the growth of my book. Basically, I had taken the entire R word off the table. All of the business that I would generate from within my book would come from directed introductions, which, by the way, we get into in the program. No one's surprised. No one ever gets uncomfortable because they recognize you're holding up your part of the deal. You're asking them to do the same. It goes right to just a human natural reaction called the rule of reciprocity. Again, something we get into in the program. Look it up and check it out. You don't want anyone on your book that doesn't understand this concept of reciprocity. We do it all the time. It's not thank you and you're welcome. It's we will do for you, you will do for us, to the betterment of possibly a third person. But we will always reciprocate when someone does something and goes out of the way to help us. If they're opening an account with you, their belief is you are the best alternative they can possibly find. Act like it. Carry that confidence. Use those response triggers that I have there. You'll be pretty surprised at what happens. Hope to see you soon. Thanks for your time.